Lukaku wants Inter move. He wants to go back to Inter. And in these hours, as I mentioned yesterday, now Inter and Chelsea are in direct contact to discuss Romelu Lukaku deal. It's a loan deal. Let me clarify that Inter can't pay for a permanent deal or for a loan with obligation to buy. So it's going to be a loan deal for Lukaku to Inter. Inter and Chelsea are in contact to discuss the details of this deal. It's not an easy one because let's remind that Chelsea paid 115 million euros for Lukaku 1 year ago, and now Inter are negotiating for a loan. So you can understand that it's not an easy deal. They're discussing about the salary because it would take a pay cut for Romelu Lukaku to rejoin Inter, and they're discussing about the loan fee. Chelsea wanted 25 million euros as opening request for this Lukaku loan fee. Now Inter are offering something less than this. So negotiation ongoing between Inter and Chelsea for a
Inter and Chelsea are in deep negotiations over the return of Romelu Lukaku back on loan. Brilliant article detailed in The Guardian, and of course the update from Fabrizio Romano, all links in the description below, have detailed what is exactly going on there. The striker is increasingly confident his wish to move back to Inter Milan will be granted, and Lukaku could need to take a big wage cut to do it. But of course, Chelsea are not just thinking about Lukaku's exit. Chelsea are thinking about a number of elements here. Who comes in to replace him is going to be key. Now, there's a name that comes up continuously surrounding this, and that is Christopher Nkunku. And I'm going to move on to him a little bit later in the video, but I do think there is the possibility, this is a personal thought and feeling, that the deal for Christian Nkunku could still happen. Yes, he's being offered a new deal. Yes, the price tag is set at 100 million euros, but there is still the distinct possibility that something could happen. But let's look at the Lukaku situation. Inter Milan, of course, don't want to pay £25 million loan fee. They want something less. There's talk of it being around 18 million euros, in and around that region for a 1-year loan fee. And of course, 100% of the wages being paid by Inter Milan. Now, Chelsea are hoping that there's a few other reports we've read, a 2-year loan deal at about 20 million with an obligation to buy at the end of it. That would suit Chelsea down to the ground. That's what Chelsea really want here. A loan fee paid up front and then an obligation to buy. And within that, doing their absolute best to recoup every single piece of, every single little bit of money that they invested into Lukaku in the first place. That's what Chelsea are looking for here. But you've got to remember, at the same time, in these scenarios, what you have to look to do is balance a number of objects at exactly the same time. So we know, already detailed in the video today, Chelsea are looking at Gabriel Jesus. That is an option for Chelsea. They've been offered him by the management team of Jesus. They have shown some interest. They've held some conversations. Nothing is advanced beyond that. They haven't spoke about squad status, playing time. I don't even believe they've gone as far as wages yet with Gabriel Jesus. Just preliminary conversations. Arsenal still leading the race as it stands when I'm recording this now on the 16th of June. They are still leading that race, as it were. But Chelsea have got to be careful here. They're going to try and get the best deal they can for Lukaku leaving, but they can't leave it too long. One, if Christopher Nkunku signs a new deal. 2, if Arsenal then sign Gabriel Jesus, you are shrinking the market. I don't think it's right for Broja to be looked at as the number 1 guy. Plus, Chelsea need more than just him returning from his good loan spell at Southampton. They need much, much more than this. They really, really do. Equally, they can't have Lukaku in the club next year. I think already we've seen this summer, there is zero desire, zero appetite from Lukaku to remain, none. He has made the point, and Dean Jones has told us that if Chelsea change their style, if Tuchel plays a system that's going to get the best out of Lukaku, he's happy to stay. But that isn't happening in a month of Sundays. That's like a bit of it's like a Fugazi olive branch being held out. It's not real. You know, I'm going to ask for something that's impossible, but if I get the impossible, then I want to stay, knowing that you're not going to be granted your wish, but you can kind of try and take some weird moral high ground that you're the well, I've said I'd compromise. It's Chelsea that are not compromising. This isn't my fault. I'm getting to a point where I don't even believe that they told Lukaku they'd change their style of play anyway. I think this has just become his way of building an excuse for his own failures. So Chelsea need to balance this very, very carefully. You know, Fabrizio's given the update there of what's going on. But interestingly, in Fabrizio's article today, he speaks about the situation. So he's talking about Arsenal and Chelsea here. Arsenal have shown interest in Christopher Nkunku. He says, I'm always adamant that RB Leipzig are determined not to sell. So it's not an easy one for Arsenal. That also means it's not an easy one for Chelsea. And this isn't a dig at Fabrizio before any of you weirdos in the comment section. Generally, most of the weirdos that comment on these videos are not actually part of the Terrace community. They come from other communities and say weird stuff. But Inter Milan weren't going to sell Lukaku last summer. They did. Barca were going to re-sign Lionel Messi. They didn't. Gino Wijnaldum's situation changed very quickly. Most media outlets were reporting that Man United were very close to Darwin Núñez. Most didn't even mention Liverpool being interested. And then bang, 2 or 3 did, by the way. And then bang, it was done. The transfer market is very, very fluid. And the one thing about the Christopher Nkunku situation that stands out to me is this. They want 100 million euros for him. That's 85 million pounds. But just read what is said here by Fabrizio. It says, so far, Leipzig have not received an offer from the Gunners for him. But I can reveal that Chelsea have been following him for some time. Still, the price is over 100 million euros because RB Leipzig want to try and keep him at all costs and could even offer him a new contract this summer. So what's interesting is that I've seen it kind of reported that the new deal is going to happen. And it may not necessarily do, but there's almost a price being set, isn't there? The price is almost being set that if you pay 100 million euros, about 85, 86, 87, depending on the exchange rate you get, million pounds, Christopher Nkunku is yours. Now, this is the reason why I think it could happen. Timing is going to be key, and the deal they get for Lukaku is also massive as well. And I'll go back to the beginning bit. Timing is key. No, we'll come back to the timing in a second. It makes more sense to go with the Lukaku deal. If they get 18 million loan fee with an option or an obligation to buy, and in its entirety, they're getting back anywhere between 60 to 80 million pounds, they're making a very small loss on Lukaku and bringing in one of the most prolific young attackers in European football. It makes sense. The Bowley board, the Bowley ownership group have already said they are willing to spend big and replace any players leaving. So it is not inconceivable that if Chelsea get rid of Lukaku and the money is there, the wages are freed up, they make this big money move. They hit the asking price that Leipzig have set. Now, Leipzig has said we want to keep him at all costs, but what they've done is set a price. Just think about that for just a second. We are not selling him, but if you want him, it's 100 million. Well, that means you will sell him then, right? For the right money, which means he is 100% available. You just got to pay the right money. And if Chelsea have been monitoring him as closely as Fabrizio says, and his name keeps coming up, every journalist mentions it, and Nkunku. There, but we don't have Leipzig want to sell. I feel like journalists don't want to talk about it as a possibility because everyone's worried about their credit. Most journalists now have become like, you know, those defense lawyers that only take cases they know they can win because they want to keep a high win percentage. A lot of transfer journalists have got like that. I'm not a journalist. I'm here just giving you a fan opinion. And my fan opinion is this: get the right money in for Lukaku, the right deal in for Lukaku, and you can get Christopher Nkunku. Now, you may not get the option or obligation to buy. Still not a problem. How confident are Chelsea that Lukaku will do a good job at Inter Milan? He's rejected PSG. He doesn't want to go anywhere but Inter Milan. If he goes there on an 18 million loan deal and does well, Inter Milan are going to buy him. Inter Milan will buy him. Year 1, the loan fee will cover the first year cost of Nkunku. Remember, transfers are very rarely paid up front in cash. They're paid over the length of the contract, which will be 5 years with a year added on. Between 5 to 6 years, you'll get for Nkunku. So you divide that 100 million euros at 85 million by 5 to 6 years. The first year's cost of that transfer is pretty much covered by the loan fee. Chelsea can kind of kick the can with that one down the street for later. And I'm sure they'll raise money elsewhere to cover that cost at some point. It can be done. Timing, though, as I mentioned, is also key here. Timing is very, very key. Because if Gabriel Jesus and a number of other attackers, all Rafinha's a name and Sterling's another name, all linked to Chelsea, if they slowly start making their transfers and Chelsea don't get the Lukaku and Nkunku deals in their own respective places done, Chelsea could be left short. The only thing, another thing that could scarper this is Chelsea getting too precarious now. We need another attacker. We're deep negotiations with Inter. Let's just go and get ourselves a Jesus now. Let's get Raheem Sterling in now. Let's get Rafinha in now. It may not be an out-and-out number 9 they buy. They just need goals and creativity from all those attacking positions. The number 9 being the main source of goals isn't that important. Goals in its entirety are. So timing is going to be key with this and not allowing the market to shrink, because of course the market shrinks, the more that RB will ask you money-wise as well, because when something becomes a finite product, when there's scarcity, the value grows. Equally, the negotiations with Inter are going to be key. But if they can get a deal done quickly with Inter, and they know there's a guarantee of cash coming in and a high chance of a Lukaku sale down the line for big money. Remember the long contract remaining. If he does brilliantly at Inter, by the way, they're going to be asked to pay 60, 70 million minimum for him. So I do believe there is a true possibility here of Christopher Nkunku making a record-breaking transfer to the Premier League. It could be Chelsea. Lukaku could be on his way out. But I want your thoughts and I want your feelings. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. Subscribe to the Football Terrace, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Thank you.